Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where those who refuse to let odds or naysayers stand in their way come to chase and catch their true calling. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. In each episode, we shine a spotlight on artists and musicians who dare to dream bigger. You'll hear the real-world tactical moves these Purpose Chasers have taken to carve out their legacies, and I'll break down the marketing strategies you can swipe and implement today. Let's dive in and start chasing our purpose. Don't forget to leave a follow on Spotify or wherever you stream from. Let's dive into this episode. I'm excited, very, very excited, and nervous at the same time to have a very, very dear friend of mine and now a client of Scale to Sale Consulting on the podcast with me. Jonas, aka Nef. I'm very, very excited to have you. I've been sitting with, well, just not to just to have you on the podcast, but to have spent the last 3 weeks pretty obsessively learning terms inside of hip hop that I never thought I would know. Type beats. I mean, I'm just learning stuff that I just never thought. Yeah, I just never thought I would know. That now as I'm writing content, you're like, bro, like what? How do you know all this? I'm like, bro, you've been telling me it all. But to give a real proper intro to Nef, I must tell a little bit of his story to get this podcast started, because in a time in a community in New Hampshire, there was a group of, I would say 5 or 6 of us collectively that were hustling, right? That were going outside of the norm of people that were working 9 to 5 and playing on the weekends, right? And I met Jonas at a time that I was going to school. I had 3 jobs. He was cooking. He was a head chef at a really nice restaurant in New Hampshire. He would leave there. He would have, he would be at this party, or he would be going to record this person, and he'd be out till 2, 3 in the morning, and then he would get up the next morning and he would go to work. And I remember having this perspective, and Nef and I have talked about it a bunch. I remember having this perspective of all these people, even the people that were in the group of us that were grinding, started to talk crap. Oh, you don't play. All you do is work. Da 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 da. And the piece that they didn't get, the people didn't get that Nef gets and I get, is like, dude, there's no greater play for me. Like, I love hustling. I just like, there's nothing. There's nothing funner than money to me, because money buys time, it buys freedom, and it buys a lot of things. With that said, I remember this conversation vividly. I don't remember the day, but I remember being out on your porch in Manchester. You had just made a French press of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
You had actually just played me some tunes that you were working on, and we were sitting out there, and I remember you looked at me dead in the eyes and you go, hey, New Hampshire has nothing left for me. And I go, what do you mean? And you started crying. I remember this like it was yesterday. You started crying out on the porch, and remember the street? That white, little white porch, and right outside the hood in Manchester.
Oh, yeah, like right down the street from all the trap houses.
And for those of you listening, it's not really a hood, probably from where you're from. But anyways, and Nef looked at me and he said, I'm going to move to New York. I have to move to New York. And he was crying. And I just remember it like it was yesterday. I looked you dead in the eyes and said, you only got this one shot, dude. Go now.
Yeah.
Go. Like, go. Most people spend their entire life regretting not taking action right now. And I am getting a little emotional because it is really, really full circle. Because if you fast track a number of years, you're in New York and you have what you would view the success that you were hoping for, right? Like, not the riches and the chains and all of that stuff, that you can fake success, but which is something that we're going to dive into here, which I've really, really learned inside of hip hop, is that you climbed the ranks inside of New York and maybe you don't have all the riches, but you have the accolades and you have the respect of the peers that when we were sitting on the porch in Manchester, you were talking about one day maybe being in a room with them.
Yeah.
Let alone getting credits for doing audio engineer work for them.
Right.
Nef, so grateful to have you here. I mean, yeah, can we just kick that? I just want to kick off by this question. Can you fast track kind of the story of how you got to New York by defining to me what an overnight success looks like? Because I view you as an overnight success, and I giggle because I know.
Right. Well, first off, thanks so much, Mark, for letting me be on here and having me on. It's super full circle. I haven't been nervous for an interview in a while, and I was like, whoa, this is like a moment right now. So I'm just grateful to be here. So you're talking about like the journey to get to New York City. I mean,
so if you look at where you are, I'm not even the journey to get to New York City. Just I just want you to take a moment of mindfulness, if you will, and screw the algorithms and just really, really get present to when I ask you and I say, Nef, people say that you're an overnight success, right? Like people say that you are, or that's just a term that buzzes. Can you explain or define what that term overnight success would look like based off of the work that you've put in to get to where you are?
Well, it's funny because I see a lot of people that have been called overnight successes, or maybe I might have seen them and didn't know their full history, and then come to find out there was so many things leading up to this point. Like for me, that conversation that we had on my porch, all the nights grinding in Manchester, going from living in Dover and having MPC and having my turntables and not really having too many places to go out. Being like 19, 20 years old, finding the one hip hop show a week that I could go to, and then going to Manchester and being like, oh, there's some more spots to go out. And like you said, I forget about that time. Some of the times is like I was pulling all-nighters. I was doing all these different things, and I was still in a small town. And going through all of that and then going through and having to get to New York City, like what you said. It was that calling. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had to go. But overnight success, yeah, I mean, people want to say internet and this and that, and you can do it, and there's no more gatekeeping or whatnot, and hey, I lived in a small town and I had the internet, and that's not what I chose to do. For me, I knew that I needed to be in rooms, I needed to be around people, I needed to find a tribe, and I craved mentorship, and moving there and then finally getting to that point and getting mentorship and being molded like it was back in the day, and really just learning and soaking it in. For me, the first year, I didn't really open my mouth much. The second year, I did. And that's when I started making more friends, letting people know what I was there to do.
Well, explain to me what that first year looks like, because I know it. I know it well because I was talking to you almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? As you were working, you were working for Statik, and Statik was providing you mentorship that
huge.
To this day, to this day, probably today, I will have some lesson that some quote from him, from you. You know what I mean? That'll move my business forward.
Yeah.
So I think about that. Can you talk about what it looks like to be humble? Like to be humble enough to have the humility to shut up for an entire year in New York when you're there chasing your dream.
Yeah. Well, this is funny. Rich Medina probably has no clue, but DJ that I met, Rich Medina, super OG in New York City. I was at Toka Tuesday at Cielo, and it was around the time that I kind of linked up with Statik and whatnot, and maybe right before. I don't know the exact timeline, but I was just kind of going up to people and introducing myself and just having no fear. And I was reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was using a lot of, I hate to say techniques, but I was gaining a lot of knowledge from that. And I was practicing it in my real life. And I would just really wanted to learn. I wanted to soak it up. And I landed this conversation with him. We're in the middle of the club. We're outside. Everyone's, just doing their thing. And I can't even tell you the exact words that he said, but he was pretty much telling me like, hey, you're from a new place. You're in a new place. You're from somewhere else. You're here. You have to be completely humble and just soak it in and just start over.
Who said that to you?
This is Rich Medina. And then I remember another conversation that Statik had mentioned, because he's someone else that has moved a few times in his career. And he was like, yo, it doesn't matter what you did before. You're here now, and it's to start fresh. So I had that in my head. And I remember like at first with Statik, it was like I would hit him up and I'd be like, hey, let's, what's going on? What should I do? And he's just like, go to events. And I was like, all right, I'll go to events. And I hit him up all the time. And then I was Googling hip hop events near me or hip hop events in NYC because I was clueless.
There
I
was
had no
so
clue.
many times. I just got to say this. There was so many times I wouldn't say anything. He'd send you on a mission, and I'd be like, "Oh, bro, he's testing you."
Oh
bro,
yeah, there was total tests.
He would send
everything.
you on so many things, and I would be like, "Oh, he's testing
Oh
you
yeah,
to see if you're gonna do it."
And
Go grab the pipe stretcher, Nef. Grab the pipe stretcher out of the truck. Nef would come back with a pipe stretcher.
Oh yeah, no, because I wanted to show, like, dude, I'm really about this. And I remember like when I asked him what should I do and he said shows, I remember being like, man, I wish he had like an outline of what really to do. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna prove to this man that I'm gonna take it seriously. So I was like just going out every night as I could, whatever. And I would hit him up. He would tell me about some place. Sometimes we would see each other, whatever. I'd dab him up, this and that. But I was like, I really just didn't want to be like super, on the situation. And I just, clingy. I didn't want to be clingy, right away. And I don't know. He saw that I was about it. He saw that I was handing out albums and mixtapes and business cards outside of the shows, that I was doing things. And then at some point I landed myself in his studio. And for me, I'll tell you one thing, cleaning up Statik's studio. One day we were just making beats, whatever. He was making beats. I was watching him. It was just a normal day at the studio. And I'm looking around, I'm someone that we do similar stuff. So it's hard to try to find yourself useful. And I wanted to clean up the studio one day. And it was little things like that. How could I prove myself? Okay, cool. All right, I can drive. I'm the sober driver. I can clean the studio. I know how to teach me how to run sessions. And then Statik was having me run sessions. And then all of a sudden, at a point, my name is on a vinyl for the first time because I got additional engineering by Nef. I was like, whoa. And then, it was answering the phones and doing stuff like that. And it all morphed into stuff, all right? Because it was looking at the bigger picture. And that was like that first year was really just me being a fly on the wall, soaking everything in, And
it wasn't you being a fly on the wall. It was you moving very, very strategically. And some might view it, some might view it as dumb or slow, but I guess I know how many people come to New York and burn it up, like burn relationships up really fast because you got people like Statik who have been planted in New York for decades, been there, living there. I know, like, you could go to a club and not see Statik, but act a fool and it would be back to him within minutes. So it's like you did a year of boot camp is what I call it, of getting vetted in being seen, in earning respect. And really the main reason why I wanted to interview you outside of like really tell your story and get some killer content from you, what was this business lesson of the respect that is earned in hip hop. Hip hop to me is an industry unlike any other, based off of the fact that you cannot fake your success. You will get called out so fast. I've seen it. I've heard it, secondhand. Sorry, clean that mic head up. Yeah. I've seen it secondhand. And like what you're talking about is playing your role, playing the fly on the wall for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And I still hear like things and positions that you're put in that you're like, all right, dude, you got to be humble to just kind of get in your lane there. I mean, you're moving
gotta just pivot.
But people think, I've heard, many scenarios that you've been in, and I've been like, oh, wow, man, that's really high pressure. I think a lot of people think that earning the respect in business, and I learned this myself, earning the respect and getting to a position of a $5.1 million sales contract before my internal was ready to match that, it would have destroyed me. It would have absolutely destroyed me.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the respect that you have to earn inside of this industry that I watched you fly on the wall earn over the first year is just, it's gold. It's less like what Statik taught you about business and many other people, Term and, now many other people in your life, but Term and Statik are the regulars that I heard
big time.
Just business game
big
coming
bros.
from them.
Always.
The main lesson here is this: the respect that you earn, and right now the economy is getting weird in business, right? The respect that you earn, the relationships that you build when you get to the top are worth way more than going to get an advance, going to buy a chain and pretending that you're something that you're not. Because if you pop up in New York or you pop up anywhere where it's real hip hop or real music or any industry, any business industry, you pop up there and you fake, you're going to get called out. But in most businesses, you can pretend. As I've learned, as I've owned many of them.
Yeah.
In this industry, you cannot, and you earn the respect. So in earning that respect and the humility that you formed to learn the lessons that you have in business to get to year 2 in New York, and you're in, just for those listening, you're in year what right now?
I just hit 9 years.
It's crazy. They actually count it that way for those of you listening. How long have you been in New York? Like,
someone said something. You can call yourself a New Yorker after 10 years. And I said, I'm good. I love New York. I don't need it though. I don't need that.
I mean, I wrote 10 years in your extended bio, and that was the only edit that you made. You put 9 years.
Because that shit gotta be real.
Somebody's gonna call me out. Someone's gonna call me out. They know I've only been here for 9.
Yeah, and I've been saying it to everyone lately.
When you go into year 2 and beyond, what is the position that you play in year 2 now that you've played a quiet role? You're starting to build some relationships. I know, kind of secondhand or firsthand, however you want to view it, that you were getting opportunities that were shocking you. Yeah. And at the same time, you were stepping into them even though you were scared. So can you walk us through the year 2 path to where where you're living in today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so like with year 2, so for me, it's like one of the biggest things that I get from that was like the cultivation of relationships. Year 2 was like the cultivation of relationships and friendships, and like getting like deep rooted friendships within year 2. Ren Thomas, Dirty Sanchez. I've gone on tour with Ren Thomas. Dirty and I have my most streamed song is with Dirty Sanchez, Divine Time. We have 2 albums out. We will never stop. Like, we're people that will never stop doing music together. These were like really deep rooted relationships, and it was like just putting myself out there more and like kind of being like, hey, this is what I do, instead of letting people find out.
I just want to explain to those listening. I mean, deep rooted relationships. Like you're talking like family involvement. Like Nef is really, really connected. Like these are his brothers. They're not just features or like any, a mentor.
These are all my friends.
These are his brothers.
And I understood what the difference was between what I used to do and go out and networking. And I was just networking, and it's so surface. And that is, I just got chills, because that is like a really pivotal point for me, where I started realizing like, this is my life. This is what I'm creating. So all like, it was, for me, it was like when I was sober and I was coming into the halls of AA, and I had to make all my friends sober people. It was like, naturally, everyone I'm around does music. I'm always around, and we're creating brotherhoods and long-term friendships, and we're talking about stuff, and it's coming up naturally. But at the same time, I'm getting a little more courageous when I'm out. Like before, I used to like go up to people I was scared of and be like, "Hey, thank you for everything," blah, 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 like do like the salute and whatnot. Now I'm like out there. I'm like, yeah, man, I got beats. So you want to check them out? Okay, yeah, cool. Like I'm like making it be known. I'm starting to DJ. But like another thing too is, I want to say it was around like year 2, where I was like chasing these really just bad DJ gigs, just like at little bars and whatnot. I was just trying to like get money. And I was like doing these like 4 or 5 hour sets at like a restaurant or whatever it was. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm paying my bills with this, but like, I shouldn't be thinking about paying my bills. I should be thinking about the long term. And I remember seeing like Statik and Term story and being like, those are my bros. Like they're out doing this. They're chilling with, all these big time icons, and they're out like making moves and stuff. That's what I should be doing. And I want to say it was like around year 2 or 3 is when I kind of just like let things happen more. And I just was like, I'm just gonna, for me being spiritual, I was like, I just want to let God kind of unfold. And that's when we step into year 3. But like year 2, I'm like driving Statik around every day. I'm his right hand man. I'm like in a position where like I look at him as my like older brother figure, my OG, but also just like as a really good friend. And it's at that point you gotta remind yourself like, yo, this is still like Statik Selektah. But these guys, these people are like, how'd you get to this spot? Like, how are you doing this? Like, we're at an event and they're talking to me to talk to him and this and that and whatnot. And I'm just like, whoa, how did I even get here? You know what I mean? And we're going out 6 days a week. You know what I mean? Like I'm following him the first, even, after like 6 months to, it was like 3 years of going out Tuesday to Sunday. Normally we get home anywhere from like 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I would wake up, make beats. As soon as I woke up, I would start making beats, and then I'd be done, or I'd do work, be done, and then I'd pick him up at like 6 p.m. and we go to the studio, then we go hit events. And it was like that every night, every day. And that was year 2, I'd say.
Yeah, so I mean, the behind the scenes grind that I know that took place on the daily it's so motivational for me. Your story is one that has inspired me more times than I can count to get to where you are today. And I don't want you to name drop, and I know you won't do it anyway. It's funny because I get to listen to all these people that are in your lives, and like I'm not affected by the names anymore because I've just heard them so much. But at the same time, I know that one day I will be in rooms with these people, and it'll probably be the same way of like you know what I mean? Like
yeah, they're all just people though,
and that's real. And that translates across, I mean, it translates across every business. It's all just people. And you referenced How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I think is the greatest business tool or life tool that there is, which is a book entirely written on how to bring value to people. And when you bring too much value to people, they will then in return bring value to you. And if you live your life that way, all kinds of beautiful relationships will open up, and all kinds of beautiful relationships have opened up for you, Nef. So Nef, after year 2, in which you were grinding.
Yeah.
I can't. The schedule that you share that I know of. I mean, I remember talking to you in the morning, and you're like, "Oh, dude, I haven't even gotten sleep yet. I have to go to the studio." I'm like, what? And knowing you and knowing that there was a level of professionalism, so you weren't getting drunk, you were doing whatever you needed to do to make sure that you could show up for your family and also do your business. After you, like, do you start to earn your stripes at year 2? Do you start going into year 3? Do you start to have to get out of that grind, or is it just that's the way the industry is you must keep grinding?
Well, I want to say at year 3, I wouldn't say things got solidified, but things were like people at year 2 and then like year 3, especially, people were, saying that I was working under Statik or I was protege, and they were like naming these things when I would go out on stage for DJ gigs and whatnot. And I wasn't, publicly saying anything like that, but it was just people were seeing what was going on. And I guess with that leverage, and also just with that, people were starting to want to work with me, and they started hearing my beats. Like I said, year 2 was like, all right, check out my beats, check me out, blah, 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 blah. Year 3 was when I put the work in. So year 3 was like, all right, now I got to do some stuff. You know what I mean? Now it's time for me. It was doing the project with Ren Thomas. It was doing the project with Dirty Sanchez. And being very, very, like you said before, and there's a reason why my brand is the Gentleman's Board, is because everything is very strategic. I always look, many, many moves ahead. What could this be? And I don't mind if I look dumb at the time. I don't mind if I look whatever at the time, because that doesn't matter. It's about the goal in the end. You know what I mean? So you can sacrifice what you want to get to where you need to go. And that year 3, like I said, it was putting things in place, making things work. And then people were like, oh, shit, okay. I'm starting to get radio play. I'm starting to get love right away. And I'm kind of not like always like trying to get my favors back or whatnot. But we talk about how to win friends and influence people. And gaining a lot, I recorded a lot of these people for Statik, and that I built relationships. I, scratch my back, I scratch yours, whatever it is. Now I'm cool enough to start doing the favor game or what it is, start maneuvering my way, you know what I mean? Making my way. And that was a big part of year 3. Still going out every night for sure. Still doing all that stuff. The grind didn't stop, but that's when things started moving along.
Can you talk about the grind? It's just a fabric of your existence, and it gets me excited because you're always working on something.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the continued grind in your career as you've now, you're releasing projects, and
Yeah.
I know in year 3 and year 4, you really put your head down and focused on your craft of actually mixing and mastering, and you dropping sounds that I had not heard from you. And, it was a maturity that I witnessed because I'm a fan of your music, right? So can you talk about that progression going into year 4 and beyond?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a really pivotal point where I want to say it was like me, Statik. Destroy, and a couple other people. We were at a Q-Tip party, and anyone that knows about Q-Tip parties, like, they are just like, they're out of a movie. They're just a magical moment in time. You know, there's dancers, you know, on the ceilings, whatnot, you know, things out of a movie. And I still have this awe, you know, New York, whatnot. We're out all the time, but I'm like, you know, I'm just like, yo, this is dope. And we're running into a bunch of people we know. And we run into, you know, Lil Fame, MOP, and his crew. And we're just outside chilling. We're talking. We're all shooting the shit. And then he just asked me, and he hits me just to say, he's like, yo, man. He's like, yo, what are you working on? I want to get on it. And I was just like, what? And I told him the collab projects that I'm working on. I'm not going to say the names, so I was like, I'm working on this one. I'm working on that one. I'm working on this one. Because now I'm like starting to look busy. I'm doing things. And he was like, nah, what do you got? And in my head, I had been waiting on what would then be Tabula Rasa. But I was kind of waiting on that perfect moment. Like, when am I ready for it? When are people going to say that I'm ready for it? And this happened. Couple of other convos happened, whatnot, and it was kind of like, yo, you're ready. It's time. And at that point, Fame asked me that, and I just completely lied and said, yeah, I just started an album. And it's a lie, but not, because it was...
You're the first feature. It's
literally,
gonna be awesome.
It was him, and he ended up being the last person on it. But that's how it goes. Like, him saying that, it completely inspired, okay, I'm going to do this project. And then I think the lockdown happened and whatnot. Anyways, I did the project. I got frustrated. I wasn't getting features. I wasn't getting it back. And then I had another conversation with UFO Feeve, and he was like, yo, bro, why aren't you focusing? Just focus on the homies first. And I looked around and I was like, bro, I got so many homies that are amazing lyricists and in it. And why am I chasing anything but? And then Term hits me up and was like, yo, dude, I got an idea. Do you want to open up a studio? And I was like, whoa, I've always wanted to, but I don't have any client base. I don't know. I don't know, bro. And he was like, all right, well, let's try it. And we came up, you know, as many conversations, of course, and back and forth, and we got it. And with the lockdown, we had to push it off, but then we finally opened it. And right then and there, that first year was crazy for Time is Money Studio. I think I had 93 different client folders with multiple folders inside of each folder. But right there, it gave us a bigger palette to work with, because before it was like I would work in Statik Studio during the day, or when he was out of town on a gig or something, because he was gracious enough to let me do that. Maybe me and Term would work on something, but it was like me and him we wanted our own place to work. We both needed it, and we made so much music, and that's when I really honed in on Tabula Rasa and put that together. And that was a really big turning point for me. It was a really big turning point in ownership for me. It was more, things started happening more in the studio for me now. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, now it's all work just to get the work done. You know what I mean? Like, I met a lot of people. I still got to go out, but I met a lot of people and they know me. I feel solidified. I feel good. Now it's time to put my head down and like really just let's focus on the work.
And you're still focused on the work. I mean, it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, I mean, I share with people like what my day looks like on the average, and I have to like be reminded how amazing it is. You know what I mean? Or how much, you know, I'll drive all the way to one studio, have a full day session there, then drive to another studio, have a full session, have a second session there, work on my stuff, and then, you know, do some mixing and mastering, whatever, and then go out and go to an event, you know what I mean, and be out till, you know, whoever knows. Or, you know, maybe I'm not even in the country today or this week. Things are a lot different now. Things have changed. Things are beautiful. I get to really experience things like what we said earlier about the porch, like being in rooms I thought I would just be in once, and these are regular to me now.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the meeting point of us here at your year 9 in New York because, I mean, I know you well, and one of the things that you have neglected as you've climbed the ranks of success here is your digital presence and your digital assets. And because you are so busy, you haven't been able to put your stuff your actual stuff together.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that, we've now launched, the Producedbynef site, and we're getting the exclusive and the lease pages and like your extended bio and all your boys that you've done albums with on there, and really getting you on the interweb in the way that you deserve to be. What do you see the vision for you for the next X amount of years in New York? Where do you see, and or not in New York, or the hip hop industry, where do you see yourself going? As I know I challenged you yesterday on what your next album was.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, it's funny. We didn't even get there yet or mention, but, a lot of the work that I do with DJ Premier, engineering, tour managing, there's a lot of work to be done. This man has so much work to be put out. And I love this mixture of like what you and I are doing and then what I have over in that world. And I've always been so much of like have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, hey, I'm doing the Nef thing over here and I'm doing the Nef thing over there. I got this hat on, I got that hat on. But like for the next few years, like I really am excited about what we're doing. I'm really excited about what we're doing. I know I'm going to keep traveling with Preem. We're going to be putting out dope records, and then I'm going to be putting out dope records and putting out albums, 2 albums on the way this year. But then I got a bunch of other stuff going on with that man. So I'm really excited to see what comes with what you and I have going on. There's always been, I don't know if I want to say a missing element, but yeah, like
which is the gentleman's board for those of you who don't know.
Gentleman's board.
The gentleman's board. Yeah. So Nef is committed to doing a YouTube show weekly, and we're going to dive into it. So the gentleman's board is really a mastermind community of producers and or artists or individuals that are inspiring to be either of those things, a community of supported individuals that are striving to do the same things, led by the mentorship of Nef and all of his years and years of lessons packed inside of there. And the other side of that, this new blossoming that's taking place is the scale to sales arm of that, which is the artist producers that are coming inside of the gentleman's board will also have access to the marketing resources that Nef himself is starting to utilize, and probably at the time of this recording be more. I mean, I finalized 2 blogs or 3 blogs last night.
Oh
at like
yeah,
10
we've
o'clock,
been
so
grinding, and I love it. It's the way to be.
So the gentleman's board, this community that you've talked about creating around this album, around this concept, can you dive into that and just give a full perspective of how this vision came to life? And now we can talk as much as you want, as we have, like we have outlined what this program is. We've set the finalized for those of you listening for June 15th. It's actually going to launch. Where did this vision come from? Can you talk from there?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, the definition, first off, the definition of gentleman's board comes from the definition that I had with the album, which comes from when I was a wee lad, when I was young. My father, he's a classical guy. There was 2 things that he really taught me, was the understanding art and how to critique art. by his paintings. He was a famous painter, and he would bring home his paintings every day, and he would teach me to do that. But then we would sit down and we would play chess, and he was really good at chess, and I became good at chess too. But I still can't remember if I ever beat him. I think I beat him once. But with that, it really taught me, I think, how to see. And my father's a pacifist, so between that and the chess and everything that he showed me was like really seeing the big picture, the long game, and all this, and what the moves are going to be, especially of your enemy. And with that, it really came back to me at the time of the Gentleman's Board, because things were just, I was traveling the world. I was with people I never thought I would be on the daily basis. All these things were really coming to fruition. And I realized that, man, I was like, right. You know what I mean? And I not right about everything, but plans that I had put in place years ago, the way that I did it, I was like, yes, the way that I moved was good. I love it. I'm here. And on the way, there was so much information I would try to get from the internet. And especially before I moved to New York, I really just had the internet. Or people that didn't know that much stuff. And I will tell people, you can't pay to be in the rooms that I'm in daily. You know what I mean? You can't pay to learn the things that I learn or have learned. It's through the experience that I have had. And I don't want to hate on a lot of the content creators because they make really good content. And I did learn, but it could have been better. It could have been easier. It could have been more in layman's terms, and it could have been more in depth or less in depth. Whatever it was, I just felt like with what I've learned and with what I've done, there was so much that I had to bring to the table. I love talking, and I love teaching, and I love sharing. And those are things I'm super passionate about. Once you get me going, it's hard to get me to stop. And it started as Nef's crash course. And I was just like, what are these things? Writing them down, jotting them down. What are things that I could give to people? And then when I was when I started working in the studio at Term Spot, Time is Money, I, after a while, started realizing these people a lot of them are coming back, not just because of the quality, but also because of the conversation. A lot of them crave that conversation and are almost paying for the conversation of what's happening, because they realize I'm learning, and sometimes I'm learning in real time for them, and they're getting super gems, and this is dope. And it's not because, oh, I'm so smart and this and that. It's just because the life that I'm living, and what I'm learning through whatever it is, royalties, this, that, how to act in business, how to stay organized, all of these things. And people started getting stuff from it. And I was like, wow, I need to figure out a way to make this happen. And I've been waiting for this moment for us to collaborate, really, without knowing. Because I stopped trying to push it, and I just knew it was going to happen when it was going to happen. And here we are.
You mentioned other content creators, and we're not here to fire shots, but are there, and I know there are, because I've done a lot of research now that I've taken you on as a client, like, and been doing your work. There are a lot of content creators. Are you saying there are a lot of content creators in the music industry that are sharing stuff that they don't actually have the experiential knowledge like you do? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I believe some of them,
just talking about shit they don't know.
Yeah.
Stuff they don't know.
Completely. I think some of them might be just finding other things on the internet, and they're just doing this because it's a way to start their career up. I got stuff going on. I don't have to do this, but I want to do this. And it's also a good move in general and in business, of course. But this is because I have the passion about it. It's not because I'm going in here and I got to do something. A lot of these guys are in their bedroom in Minnesota, or wherever they are, and they've never been in an industry room. They still think that the only way to place beats is sending emails every single day. I barely get beats placed with emails. I do it on the spot. You know what I mean? I go to the studio, I pull up. I got friends that when we make music, I can call that a placement. But I want people to learn from that, and I like that I'm not super high up there just yet because I think it's still fresh. I think it's a good spot now because it's learning fresh.
Nef, before we wrap this episode up, I haven't said it because of, the name dropping. Like, you can't name drop in hip hop. Like, it's I've learned this from Nef. Like, I don't talk about who he works with. Like, conversations Nef has with me, it's closed mouth. That's the only reason why he has them with me, because some of the conversations, like, he wouldn't have the ranks that he has, right? Talk about ranks to get up to the general, if you will, or the commanding officer, who I would view like one of the greatest. And I mean, I've known his name since I was 10, 11 years old. What was it like cultivating the relationship to get to where you are in DJ Premier's world? I must ask this. And if I'm speaking out of turn, or this is like a
no,
whatever, just
it's
shut
great.
me down and I'll end it there.
Nah, I think it's good. All these stories with me about like how things happened or how they were natural, and it's so important. To go back, I don't like for me and him. I was at first, I can't lie, like I was so scared that I would mess up any type of relationship with this icon, this legend, this GOAT. You know what I mean? Like I looked at him in such high, and I still do, but like in such high regards. It was the like when I met him, I wasn't even like, yo, I make beats. Nothing like that. I was never like pushed my stuff. I wasn't like, yo, check me out. Like, you don't do that. That, in my opinion, at that point, I was like, you don't do that to this guy. Come on. That he is beyond all that. But
you probably don't stay in a room with the man if you do it, based off of how I've heard. You've shared with me this man navigates. He don't play with his energy.
he protects his energy, and his energy is so good, and he's a rare find. So like, I remember there was this period, I would see him, and he's like Statik. Statik always jokes, it's my dad. He's his OG. And Term and him have a really long history together. They got 10, I think it's 10 records now. And just within that, I started getting placements, and then all of a sudden, this guy's playing my songs on his radio, and I would just be like, casually, hey, did you know I made that beat? And he's like, yo, it's not because you're friends with Statik. It's because I like the record. And I was like, man, I mess with, like, he is solid. Like, I already did, but like the way he responds to that is solid. And then, that would just happen every once in a while. And then, I remember it was Tabula Rasa came out, and I was like, I want to, this is one time I'm going to ask him. I had his email address for the radio show. I would send it to the other DJs and whatnot. And I did, and he messed with it, and he liked it, and he would play it every week on his show for a couple months. And he was doing these videos and whatnot, and around that time too, he was asking Term, hey, what's up? Hey, I need another engineer. My engineers, they don't have as much time, whatever it was. He needed a gap to fill. And I remember being like, oh my God, I'll go right now. Like, it's DJ Premier. Oh my God, Term, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he's just like, yo, you just got to chill. And I was like, what? I just got to chill and wait? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. I'm cool. And then like, forgot about it kind of. And then like a month goes by or whatever. Hey, he still wants to talk to you. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And, but then I learned it's like, hey, this man is all about respect, and and it wasn't a phone call. It was like, next time that Term would be in, he would bring me. Next time I'm available, when Term goes in, I would go there. So I had to leave it up to the gods. You know what I mean? Had to leave it up to the hip hop gods. And then one day I go in and we talk, and and Term is in there, I believe, for a Good Dad Gang and Gangstar release that they did together. I believe that's what they were going in and talking. I could be wrong, but I had dropped to Bula Rasa, and he agreed, and he said, "Hey, come on the show and talk about it." And I was just like, "What?" Okay, and talked about it, and then we talked. I think we might have gotten each other's info, and then a while later, boom, we do the first session, and then nothing happens. Then we do another session, and then I find out, okay, cool. I just got to check in with this guy, and then all of a sudden, I'm showing up, and I'm showing up, and that was the biggest thing. And one of the biggest things I'll say to anyone that's coming up is you got to show up, you got to be there, and things will just fall into place. Because after that, a beautiful relationship started, and start to work with the gentleman that is the reason why I do a lot of stuff that I do, and is the only reason why I learned how to engineer, was because I knew that he mixed his records and the stories that I had heard and whatnot. And now I'm here just being able to help. And then getting, and even I remember the first time working at his studio saying, "Hey, I've never used this board. I've never used that software. It's going to be a learning curve." And he was like, "That's okay. That's cool." And a lot of my story has to do with me not knowing how to do something, but knowing enough to get there and then doing it. And under pressure, making it happen and then coming up with solutions. And that led into tour managing. That led into going overseas multiple times, still going overseas with this guy, going from stage manager to assistant, whatever, this and that, to then tour manager officially. And now it's just a part of life. And it's just a crazy how things fall into place that way. And it's big full circle for me, for sure.
It's not crazy. Not crazy at all. It's energetic. It's energetic consistency, and you can't fake it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love these men that are in your life so much. Like through not knowing them is just because of the integrity. It's just daily. It's not it's not who I'm going to pretend to be when I hit record. It's who I am in the bathroom. It's who I am, at 4 o'clock in the morning when we're walking home. Who are you when the cameras are off? And I think that's one of the main aspects that I love about the teachings that you have learned climbing with consistent action. Nef, glad I got you to share on that. And now I want to wrap this episode by talking about SEO, because I'm a word nerd.
There it is.
Well, and I also think and I would share this with those of you listening, that the two people that mentor you, or the three people that mentor you, because I consider Term a mentor of yours. He's taught me a lot. I consider
I have 4 mentors.
4 mentors. But anyway, you keep it. But anyways, it'll keep going. But these individuals don't deem themselves at the top. They're still grinding as if their spot's about to get taken, which is what I love. And if you looked at these individuals, they're at the top. So
and it doesn't stop, and it shouldn't ever stop.
It shouldn't. It's the fun. Some people play. Some dudes play video games. I do business.
Yeah.
Nef, very, very excited. I'm very excited to have you come on as a client. There's a couple things that I'll rip on here to end. As I haven't actually talked about or shared on my podcast, maybe that'll be the next, or it will be. I'll say that now. I will share this story because I just released a blog on it after Nef's episode releases this week. I walked away from that $5.1 million sale, and I essentially went on a hippie tour this summer, literally. I followed bands that played similar music to the Grateful Dead and reggae music all summer. And Nef, you and I talked for hours and hours and hours and hours as I traveled the country, the country, literally. Learning the ins and outs of the music industry. And like most people would think that I was just partying it up and listening to music, but I was talking to the people that hosting the events and the musicians that were there, and just getting so much information. And I saw one thing over and over and over and over and over again. And I see it inside of your industry right now. I've talked to you about it until you're probably sick of it. that is this. Most artists, producers, whatever, and even the name drops that Jonas has shared on this show do not own their names or their work on the internet. Other people do. And this is the way that the music industry is getting pimped, is by not owning your name on the internet, Jonas. Ticket sellers and or publicists get to own your name through the SEO work that they do. That's why I'm really, really grateful to not only get to bury your name in the internet and to have you start coming up in search across the internet, but to be able to, you know, kind of tip the hat to some of these OGs that are mentoring you, as they've taught me many lessons in business. Jonas, Nef, I love you, man. Grateful to be popping into the Gentleman's Board and to be working on your website and, you know, the Gentleman's Board mastermind and all the things that we're working on. Very, very excited to be here. And it was a long tour, like a long summer of depression and figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do to get to this contract agreement with you. And for those listening, this has been like 8-month conversation for Nef and I.
A lot of these things that we have talked about are not overnight conversations.
Well, let me share this. I just want to share to them that like Nef has taken so much time and put so much effort into the relationships that he's built into what he calls his career, that at the same time, he wanted to make sure that I was fully solidified in what I was doing before he put my name on it because of the work that he's done. And I have so much respect for you, so much respect for the hip hop industry. If anyone needs business lessons, I mean, look at the top dogs in the hip hop industry, like the top people, because they will teach you more lessons than you could ever learn inside of a college classroom. Nef, very, very excited. We'll get you back on here soon, and we'll talk about all of the things that we're doing now that we have you booming on the internet. Love you, homie.
All right, Mark. Love you. Thanks so much for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. If you're ready to take action, don't wait. Head over to thepurposechasers.com to access notes, resources, and a host of other tools to keep you moving forward. And if you want to supercharge your digital presence, visit scaletosaleconsulting.com to partner up with my team and amplify your impact. Let's turn your purpose into your biggest asset. Until next time, keep chasing, keep creating. Your purpose awaits.